Welcome to Popcorned Planet. I am Andy Signore, and this morning, Travis Scott gave an exclusive interview to Charlemagne the God, and I have Christopher Melcher here to break it down with me. Thanks for being here, Christopher.
Well, thanks for having me, Andy. It's good to hear Travis Scott say something, but we'll break down how we feel about it.
Yeah. Well, we were talking, but as this was about the tape, and I gotta say, before I even get into the rundown, I'm frustrated, Christopher, because this was the most obvious puff piece I've ever seen in state of interviews. Like, this made the Alec Baldwin look like a fisticuffs, because Charlemagne the God, I guess, clearly must be a friend. And even some of the tougher questions, you could just tell he had to phrase them in a way to sort of appease Travis. There was literally a moment where even they asked about he almost begrudgingly asked Travis at the end of the interview about the W article that pulled the headline with Kylie, et cetera. And even Travis's comment was like, well, yeah, you talk to magazines. That's why I only do magazines that I like, which to me is just a keyword if he only talks to people that are going to, treat him fairly and not actually demand any responsibility, which nothing happened in this interview. So my 2 cents, and I have some clips we can talk to. Overall, though, did you feel like Travis offered anything of substance here aside from sort of the same somber, we got to find out what happened. Dude, you've had so long to figure out what happened. What do you mean you still got to figure out what happened? This was a crowd control problem. Charlemagne even asked him, Christopher, do you find Live Nation? I have that clip. He won't even let Live Nation be on the hook, because I guess they're probably in his ear too. What was your take on all this frustrating interview?
Yeah, it was disappointing, and it's a long interview, so I thought we're going to learn something from this and hear him take responsibility, even though he doesn't feel he's legally responsible, that he would take some moral or personal responsibility for what happened. He spent a lot of time stammering. You could see that he's just falling all over his words. He's not articulate, and so he was really struggling. I don't know how he normally communicates, but he was saying words that had no meaning to them. There wasn't any substance to it. And the questioning they were all softball. There were not good follow-ups. There weren't confrontations. To me, it's like Travis is almost saying wow, it's almost like I was doing this show and then a meteor came down and just killed everybody, and I'm just still trying to figure out how that happened. That's his attitude towards it. Rather than here a month later saying, hey, I have confronted people. I have demanded answers. I have looked into it. I now know what happened, and I know what needs to be done. He did say, I'm just the artist, which I agree. He's just up there as a performer. He doesn't know anything about crowd management science, but he's had a month to figure that out now. And that's the shocking part of it to me, is a complete lack of insight about this incident. And he said a lot about himself, but he didn't talk about his responsibility for it.
We're going to do a full rundown of the interview live today around 12:30, so join us. If you really want to see the interview, we're going to start and stop and give you commentary, because there's a lot of boring stuff in there, but I do think it's important to point some of this stuff out that Christopher's saying, but it's long. You can join us for that full breakdown. I have a few clips we're going to get to, but Christopher, you're spot on, and it's the ego was so still there. There was a whole moment, I wasn't there to be the villain. I was there to be the hometown hero. And then he pivots to his charity over and over again. And he even has the gall to say, I wasn't doing that to be for the pats on the back. But, you wouldn't be surprised when people aren't there to notice that you're doing it. Clearly pat himself on the back, pivoting to there were so many little weird and annoying things. And the most frustrating part to me is when you look at the headlines today. When you look at the headlines and how the media is spinning this, which I do believe there is a joint effort, because Live Nation, some of these corporations, there is a lot of money and people own a lot of these things or have people's in people's ear to try and let this move forward and let Travis Scott get away with this and potentially the concerts. Travis Scott said he feels the media is forcing responsibility for the Astroworld onto him in his first interview. Travis Scott denies knowing about Astroworld interview, denies knowing fans were injured, breaks silence in first interview, dismissed files first response, says he didn't know what happened. He says, I have a responsibility. These are I'm sorry, I watched the interview. This is such a false takeaway in my opinion of what actually happened. What he says is we have a responsibility to figure out what's happened, but every time there was a slight pressing by Charlemagne to like, what is your responsibility? He backs down. And I want to play that first. Like throughout the whole interview, he says, we got to figure what happened. Fair. You've had weeks, you know what's happened. I don't believe for a second, Christopher, that this team, Travis's team, don't know by now what happened. The Washington Post has put together a fantastic breakdown speaking to everybody that has explained what happened. It was crowd control, and they were all coming from one stage to the other, pushing against. And I do believe there's an energy and other stuff that he encouraged his crowd to sort of have. And there was a quadrant of this concert where they couldn't get anywhere. They were trapped. And so we got to figure out, he's right, who did it? But take ownership, Travis, and say, how did that happen? How did we not have someone there to make sure that this was designed that way? No, he's trying to cover everyone's bases, and he's trying to make sure that it's sort of a slap on the wrist. When Charlemagne asked this question at the end, it was telling to me, here, let's play this clip.
Man, who does Travis Scott ultimately, I guess, think is responsible for this tragedy?
You know, it's crazy because something tragic happened here, and what I've just been trying to, get to the bottom of is just what happened here, how it happened here, and I think the families are owed, that. I feel like the community is owed that. I feel like we're owed that to just know what happened here, and. I don't want to just speak too soon. I just want to figure out, what happened,
Mm-hmm.
But, we, like I said, as artists, we just leave this up, to professionals to make sure that we, that fans are having a good time, people are protected and can, leave and have the best experience ever,
It's like the word. He doesn't want to finger point, but then at the very end, the professionals. He's not the professional, Christopher, right? Everybody but me. Let's figure out what happened. Yeah, and then he goes on about love is love. Like we have to figure out, let's just love each other. And he doesn't want to offer any of his fans sort of the opportunity to potentially point that, yeah, you have some responsibility here, Travis. Go ahead. You were going to say something.
Yeah, well, I agree with his point that he is the artist, he's the performer. He didn't go to school on crowd management science. It's a whole field. So he wouldn't know about that stuff. But by now, and he's right that he's relying on the professionals, the concert promoters, producers, the venue itself, everyone that knows all that stuff, because there have been plenty of other incidents where people were crushed at sporting events or concerts. So this is not the first time. So he's right about that. But after all this time that's gone by, he should be able to name names. He should have been ready for this question. It's an obvious one that was going to be asked. So he should be able to say, hey, here are the professionals that were in charge of crowd management for this venue or this concert. These are the people that I was relying on. These are the people who failed to act reasonably, and get it out there. And for him just to say, oh, it's just some kind of mystery professionals, like he can't even identify them after all this time, I think is just, again, failing to honor these victims and their families, because he has access to these people. The victims and their families and their attorneys have to go to court. He's trying to get their case thrown out. They're going to have to sit through layers of subpoenas and hearings and attorneys that are all going to try and block them from getting the information. He can go in there and demand answers and say, I want to know who's responsible for this and who's screwed up, and he can name names. But he's covering for them because he realizes that he's going to get sued and responsible for that also. So again, huge failure to take responsibility.
Yeah, and the covering is what I want to get to, because here's that question when they ask. Here.
Let's talk about those professionals. Like how much responsibility do you think like Live Nation and Score more?
And just to be clear, I'm playing you some of the hard ones, but he has to like ease into any hard question, Charlemagne. You can just tell he's on eggshells with his buddy Travis. Like, I got to ask you some tough questions. Is it okay? Was the vibe I got through the whole show.
Promoters having all of this.
I mean, they do their job of, setting these things up. So, I mean, I think, they when we dial into what, specifically happened here, I feel like, even they can kind of help, figure out what happened in a sense.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but at the end of the day, I think collectively, everyone needs to just figure out the bottom line solution. But, you know, especially in concert safety, you know, definitely got to have, you know, make sure that, you know, these things are, you know, done right.
You think?
I just see no remorse in the fact that this man, I just don't think he realizes, Christopher, that we lost 10 people, including children, and he's still covering for Live Nation, who absolutely bears some responsibility, and the venue, whatever whatever that second company, but Score More, they're absolutely responsible in this, and he still doesn't even have, he can't even have the guts or the remorse to be angry at this loss, right? And try to point some fingers at some very powerful corporations that absolutely, like you're calling them the professionals that are responsible, but you still won't even say out loud, yeah, no, if they're the professionals, Travis, yes, now's the time where you get angry and say, I relied on Live Nation, I relied on Score More. If you really want to be the guy who's saying you're better than that and you weren't responsible, scream it from the rooftops. I was counting on you. My fans were counting on you. Where the hell were you? Who designed this? Why was it designed this way? An artist with remorse would be livid and crushed. You know what I mean, Christopher? There would be emotion. Like I have more emotion over this than he does, and that really bothers me. That he's like, yeah, we're gonna, even them, hopefully they'll come up with a solution. No, they need to be shut down. It's like insane.
Yeah, and that's what's really maddening to me is that the solutions already exist. This has happened so many times. If over the last possible 100 years that we've had sporting incident crushings, concert crushing deaths. It's a science of crowd management. There is bulletins out there that these venues all have and they need to follow. So we don't need the solutions. The solutions exist. We need people to actually care enough to follow the rules, regulations that are already in place. And if he would have spent 5 minutes looking into this, reading any of these articles, listening to expert interviews, he would already know, like, oh yeah, this is a real thing. This happens. It's foreseeable. We have professionals. There's rules. And then those rules weren't followed. He's pretending as if this is the first time this has ever happened. It's a total shocker. And we need to now study and make sure it never happen again. It's clear why it didn't happen. And his attitude. And again, I don't know his regular demeanor. Maybe he's being super cautious because he knows, everyone's going to criticize him and use this against him. And that's why he's speaking this way. But man, he makes a horrible witness. And like you say, there's no showing of emotion or acknowledgement, understanding that the show that he invited people to caused 10 people to lose their lives and hundreds to get injured.
Well,
and to me, it's just amazing.
I'll say it. He comes across very dumb to me because he's just not. He's very ignorant to so much stuff here, and he shouldn't have done the interview if he wasn't prepared to actually educate himself on some of the stuff. The only stuff I feel like he's educated himself on are a lot of talking points and buzzwords and things to say. Like there was what was the one I just don't believe for a second when asked about sorry, I lost my notes. I'm now drowning in my notes looking for the.
There was active something.
Yeah, like crowd. There were just words he was using that I'm like, there's no way this wasn't trained. We must create active change and show her. There was just a bunch of stuff he was saying that to me felt very coached. Like he has been going through someone who's coaching him on here's what you're allowed to say, here's what to say, lean into this anytime he says that, bring it back, don't talk about we're going to fix this problem. We're going to fix this problem is what I feel like over and over again. Someone was in his ear. That was the takeaway of what he wanted for the intentions here. We're going to fix it, everybody. I'm so sorry. We're going to fix it. And to me, no, he's trying to not take any responsibility. And Charlemagne did at one point ask about the rage culture.
Raging has been a part of the culture, of your shows. You didn't on this night, but in the past, you've encouraged, I guess, the kind of energy that could have led to something like this happening. Mm-hmm. Do you think that contributed to the energy of this night?
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, no. It's like the worst answer. Was it yes, sir, or no? What does the person in the courtroom say? Yeah or no? Which one was it?
It's something I've been working on, for a while. of just creating these experiences and trying to show like the experiences happening in a safe environment. You know, us as artists, we trust, you know, professionals to make
in a safe environment. Sorry, I can't help myself. Safe environment where he's telling them to crush the barriers, push security. Security can't touch them, but they can push the security down. He can tell them to attack people when his shoes taken away. They can jump from the rooftops, Christopher. Like, you know, safety precautions. You know, I want my crowd to be
make
safe.
sure that, you know, things happen and people leave, you know, safely. You know what I'm saying? And it's not.
Dude's paralyzed from him encouraging him to jump off of off the balcony. So, you know, leave safely.
Just like a regular show. You know,
Just a regular show, right, Christopher?
Me. As far as like, you know, the energy, people, it didn't feel like it was like, you know, people didn't show up there to just be harmful. People just, I think, showed up to have a good time, and then, you know, something unfortunate happened. And I think we really just got to figure out, you know, what that was, you know?
Does raging make it harder to identify when something is going wrong in the crowd?
Well, I think, you know,
Yes.
raging is just you know, they have a textbook, you know, definition, but, you know, in concerts, we've grown it to be just an experience of having fun. It's not about just, harm. It's not about that. It's about just.
So it's not just about harm. So Christopher, again, he's on the stand, right, doing a deposition. Doesn't he sort of admit that it is about harm, but it's not just about harm? Like, the way he speaks is so hard to follow because he's not really even making clear statements. Is rage culture about harm? It's not just about harm. It's about having fun now. Does this make any sense to you?
Well, no, he's not making his points clear. And I do get back, though, to, you know, his reliance on professionals, you know, is right. And those professionals would know that there's different crowd management needed for a Travis Scott concert versus if we're doing, you know, Moscow Ballet Nutcracker performance. That you take into account the crowd that's going to be there. Are they all going to sit in their seats, or are they going to be on their feet? And so that, you know, hey, he can put on any type of show he wants and have any kind of music he wants. That's all fine, and people come to see that in particular and engage in that. But that's what gets back to the foreseeability that when you have that type of environment, you need to have a lot of precautions so people can do it safely. So again, it's like he's not doing himself any favors by not really understanding, hey, he's putting on a particular type of show, and that it was obviously not safe. Again, this is not a mystery. This didn't just happen, you know, like some terrorist attack on the stadium. I mean, he brought people in, he was doing a particular kind of show, and he did not make sure that it was safe for his fans. And again, what's missing is the outrage that he should have to say, these are my fans that I invited, that I brought there, and I was, you know, ultimately responsible for their safety, and we messed up, and now I've looked into it, and here is who messed it up and what we have to learn from it. Well, none of that we got.
There's so much more to go through, and I will, but I want to end on this of sort of what's the future?
Like I say, music is part of healing. And at the end of the day, I just don't think, you know, a Travis Scott show or, you know, an Astroworld show, you know, wasn't the bottom line factor of what happened here, you know? And I think we just got to figure out what that was, what happened. But, you know, having a Travis Scott show, you know, we've done shows, you know, all
where
over.
People are paraplegic.
You know, what happened here, you know, something that happened here, you know.
And then Charlamagne's like, yeah. Like,
and that's why we want to fix it, because it can happen anywhere. You know what I'm saying? And I think once we get further along in that, I think, you know, it'd be a little bit more receptive, I feel.
Just you as an individual, when you perform again, what precautions will you take moving forward? Just you, just based off what you can.
So he answers, I'm just going to put more security, or, you know, it's a very bad non-answer that I'm going to go through. But the takeaway I wanted to share that clip was, you know, they're already planning the future, Christopher. This is, in what was really what was telling for me in that clip was Travis has already sort of decided, okay, this was an accident, cool. You know, this had nothing to do with Astroworld or a Travis Scott show. He's already put that in his head. He's Charlemagne, the interviewer, is agreeing with him. Yeah, cool. And, you know, when you perform again, what are you going to do next time? And that's where we're at. Like, investigation not even there. Travis has admitted he still doesn't even know what happened. He's got, right? Yeah. But he's already like, you know what? Yeah, next one we'll be on it. It's infuriating to watch this. It's like this, the media's just taking it. Yep, we're all moving on. Astroworld that's not why it happened, guys. You know, because Travis told us so. And Charlemagne's like, yeah, you know, good call. This is infuriating to watch.
Yeah, he's basically saying the show must go on and will go on. And then towards the end of that answer, he's saying that, you know, hey, the crowd needs to take responsibility and that he'll make sure he tells the crowd, like, hey, be safe and treat each other well. Well, if you've ever been in that type of crowded environment, you can't do anything to protect yourself. You are wall-to-wall people and you're going to get crushed or pushed around. You can't even yell loud enough for somebody to hear you, and it's outside the control of the people there. They should never be put into that environment. And again, he does not understand how crowd management works, and he thinks just giving a message like, hey, treat each other well and don't push each other and crush each other is the solution.
Do you? I mean, I wasn't even going to lead there. Maybe I will lead this title there. I feel like there's some sort of cover-up happening here. I feel like he's in cahoots with these organizations. There's a lot to lose. There's a lot of people on the line. There's now a $10 billion lawsuit that was just dropped, Christopher. Like, I feel like they are trying to work with the media, with us, the audience, to try and just like, can they get away with this? Can they just get friendly interviewers and friendly outlets to sort of just twist the narrative of what this is? And hopefully maybe they pay off some quiet settlements and Astroworld happens again and they got away with it. Do you, as the final thought here, do you think that's a possibility that could happen here, sadly?
Well, I think that's absolutely what's going on because the lawsuits are going to take years to resolve. It just takes that long and it may end up bankrupting him. But, you know, in the meantime, he's saying, I'm going to continue performing. And he just needs cover to do that. Just saying like, hey, you know, we learned and we're gonna improve and all this kind of stuff. And you know, he just wants the thumbs up to go forward. And obviously the concert promoters and everybody else wants to do that too. So that's just saying like, hey, yeah, kind of bad what happened. We're gonna learn from it, but show must go on.
Infuriating. We're going to break down more of it today in our live. We also have a lot more stuff. Scott Peterson case. I'm going to get your thoughts on that quickly before I let you go, Christopher, and so much more that we'll be covering live today around 12:30, 12:45. So make sure if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, hit the bell for all alerts so you get notified. Join us there. I'll put the video at the end of this so you can click there. Hopefully it's there at some point when you watch this. And if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to Christopher Melcher right there, youtube.com/CCMESQ. Go support him in his videos as well. Always a pleasure to have you, Christopher. Stay tuned for more here on Popcorn Planet.